going on, Lions fans? Welcome back. Stephen Will, Detroit Done 313 Friday night edition. Don't know how many people are going to be tuning in tonight with competing against March Madness is a tough ask. But if you're here, my guy William's not feeling 100%. All right, we're not going to go into details. But the only thing, the best medicine is a couple subscribers. Just hit that subscribe button for him. It'll make him feel better. So, Will, what are we talking today?
Listen, I don't keep secrets from our subscribers. I tell you guys the truth. Bottom line, just had a tooth pulled. If I sound sexier than normal, that's why. That's why. but that said, today we're talking about depth, Steve. Depth. I feel like we say it all the time here. Breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs are being left. We've been desperately, and by we I mean us, our subscribers, and all types of Detroit Lions fans across the world, I should say now. We are trying to figure out what Brad Holmes is going to do, right? And I feel like the table is really being set for what's about to happen. So I'm not going to jump right into it. I'll let us flow into it, but that's kind of setting the table of what's going to be talked about today.
Yeah, I think he has definitely left some clues. The last couple of days, we've signed some defensive backs. Today, with the signing of Avante Maddox, hometown kid from Detroit, went to Pittsburgh. We'll let that slide. Didn't stay in state for school, but it's all good. And then yesterday, signing Rock Yassin, Khalil Dorsey, he re-signed. We all know about DJ Reed. The other pieces that we've added throughout free agency. I think that you're spot on, Will, and you took the words right out of my mouth. This is a clue. This is a very, very small little clue. I don't think a lot of people are really paying attention to what's going on. We're really bolstering up this secondary. We've signed a lot of people. We've done it 2 years in a row now. The draft, going back to when we, signed CJ Gardner-Johnson. Like, Brad Holmes has addressed the secondary every year. He's fixed a problem. Our pass defense was not phenomenal last year, but I think it is a clue that something's coming in this NFL draft where he's going to target these trenches, offense and defensive side of the football. And that's going to be the voice of, or the kind of the meat and potatoes of the draft, I should say, is going to be offensive line, defensive line, maybe sprinkle in a wide receiver here or there. But I really think that with all these safeties, corners, defensive backs in general, that he's loading up the secondary, and he's really going to be focused on this defensive line in the draft. Will, how do you feel?
First thing that I'm going to say, Avante Maddox, listen, King High School stand up. King High School stand up. Listen, I'm excited about bringing him back home, and this is going to be another one, and I feel like a couple people have hammered me in the comments just about little moves and how excited I get about them, but I feel like I'm just looking at the big picture. I'm not here to sell you that these little moves by themselves are going to be the reason why we win a Super Bowl. But I am going to sell you these little moves are going to be the reason per compound interest that we win a Super Bowl. When you're talking about Avante Maddox, Steve, just starting with him, you're talking about a guy who was just on the field playing in the Super Bowl. He had a huge fourth down stop against Patrick Mahomes, right, with a PBU. Like, this is a guy with 7 years of experience in Philadelphia with that defense being on the field. Now, it wasn't until Cooper DeJean came to town that he kind of had to take a back seat. But until then, he played a pivotal role for the Philadelphia Eagles in that nickel position. I love the signing. I love bringing him home. I love getting Super Bowl champion caliber experience. And Steve, just a little thing that I'm already thinking about. If we got to play the Philadelphia Eagles in a big football game, he knows the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Nothing changed out there, right? Offensively, some things have changed. Same guys though, defensively, right? Bottom line is he understands that he knows what they're trying to do and what they're about out there in Philadelphia. I love it. I love it. We talk about kind of stealing the blueprint that they have out there, bolstering the edge in this draft, getting a better pass rush. What better and who better than a guy who was on that squad? So with that said, Steve, does it make you feel even better about Mr. Maddox coming home?
Yeah. And I'll say this, I'm not trying to throw any shade at other YouTube channels or whatnot, but we don't report every single move for a reason. Like, we don't say like, signing Khalil Dorsey is giving us the golden ticket to the Super Bowl, and the world's at our fingertips now. And we're not going to spin it into something fantastic. But if you look at the moves, at the totality of all these moves, I think it speaks volumes that we no longer have to worry about if Terrion Arnold gets hurt, Amik Robertson gets hurt. We don't have to worry about who's coming in. We got proven, solid Super Bowl champion type players coming in and taking over. I don't think we have to worry about that. We don't report every single little thing. All right, we report and we try to give big picture type news. And I don't think you get overly excited. I think you're pretty honest about, hey, this. I think we say the term all the time. This doesn't move the needle that much.
Yeah.
Look at that needle, just tick, 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 tick. Small little ticks add up, and then you make a big splash in the draft, and that needle really jumps. That's where the difference is going to be, I think. So these are just little, like we say, breadcrumbs. Little pieces of breadcrumbs are just building up to a big piece of cake. I like this move. I like the Rocky Sin move. I like the Khalil Dorsey move. Now, if you take all of it together, it's a little bit more meaningful than just one of them in general. If you look at this defensive backs room, Will, who do we got? Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, DJ Reed. I'm going to miss Amik Robertson, Terrion Arnold, if I didn't mention him. Now you bring in Avante Maddox, Rocky Sin, Khalil Dorsey coming back. Like, we have a solid set of guys in that defensive backs room that I think is very, very good. I think it's a huge upgrade as a whole. If you take all of the offseason moves that we've added just to the defensive back room, I think it's a major, major upgrade.
Steve, I do too. I'm just picking up right where you left off. Not counting Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch, we have 8 corners, right? 8 corners. So 8 corners that I wouldn't mind coming in as spot duty. That is huge. That is huge. Again, name them off. You got Terrion Arnold, you got DJ Reed, you got Amik Robertson, you got Ennis Rakestraw, you got Rocky Sin, you got Khalil Dorsey, and then you got Avante Maddox, man. We are deep. We are deep. And then I say 8 because you could in any cycle, you could also spin it to where you just throw Brian Branch at that nickel position. Right. So he's a hybrid that's dipping in both. But when you're just talking about just safeties, I feel like we're only looking at Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch when you're talking about just the safety position. I know we got Strickland and Norris, but let me tell you, those aren't guys that I'm going to want to spend the season playing at the safety position. I think if something happened to them as it stands right now, you bring somebody in. But when I look at that, Steve, and you just kind of go through this by position group, I think about when I go to the defensive tackles, you got DJ Reader, Mekhi Wingo, Miles Adams, Levi Onwuzurike, Roy Lopez, and Broderick Martin, right? Not mentioning Aleem McNeil when he comes back. Normally we only got 2 of them out there. That's a nice little depth for what we got right there. I wouldn't be panicking about how we're going to field defensive tackles. Then when you start talking about those linebackers, you're talking about Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez, and then Grant Stewart. I know he's more of a special teamer, but I showed you guys a snippet when he did get his opportunity to start. The dude had 18 tackles. The dude performed when his number was called. So him coming in at spot duty, I'm not worried about him or Malcolm Rodriguez coming in spot duty. And Malcolm Rodriguez gets reps during real games anyways. It's not a lot, like 5 to 10 plays, but he gets reps during the games already, man. So I'm not worried about if they need to cover for one of those guys because they're going to be down for a game or two. But when I look at this edge position, Steve, we have 1.5 edge rushers, in my opinion. 1.5 edge rushers. And the reason why I say that is this. You got Aiden Hutchinson. Okay. He's a dog. He's one. And then you got Marcus Davenport. And he's 0.5 to me because, hey, we just know. I'm not here to beat him up, but we just know that he's at this point known for not playing full season. So 1.5 edge rushers. After that, you're talking about Al-Quadin Muhammad. We're talking about Josh Pascal. We're talking about Pat O'Connor. We're talking about Isaac Uku. No, it's not enough. So if I'm just looking at our defense right now, I feel like the table is set, Steve. We're going to get a linebacker as a depth piece sometime in this draft. I think it'll be later on. I don't think it'll be early, unless for some reason we say, hey, we're going to go ahead and draft Jahad Campbell. I'm not saying it's off the table. The only way I think that happens is if they believe that Jahad Campbell is Micah Parsons. If you believe that, he's going to be able to put his hand in the dirt, which he hasn't shown on college film, and he's going to be able to go out and play some linebacker. If you believe that, then you draft him. If you don't, then I don't think you draft him. So outside of that, it's going to be, you got to upgrade this 1.5 edge rusher situation. And then the safety situation, you only have Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. So I see us drafting a safety in this draft. I feel like the breadcrumbs are there. You know what I mean? So when I look at this draft, Steve, over the course of Brad Holmes being in Detroit, he hasn't hesitated to double down at a position group. He's doubled down at defensive tackle, Levi Onwuzurike and Ali McNeil. He's doubled down at the corner position. We're talking about Terry and Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. And this year, he doubles down at the edge position. Steve, how do you feel? Do you think that he could potentially be doubling down at that edge position, or do you think I'm off base?
My fingers are crossed, Will. I want nothing more than defensive end. I think it just gives you just another wave. I've been saying the same thing. Battle in the trenches, man. Trench warfare. That's where we're going to dominate the game. We dominated on the offensive side of the football. If we start doing the same thing on the defensive side of the football, all of these little pieces, all of these little things that people don't think are adequate enough and are throwing a fit about Brad Holmes and the moves he's made, you're going to see you got solid people out there. I can't remember what's the total number of people we had out last year, like 18 on our defense or something like that. You're talking about those guys, mostly all of them coming back. And the people we've signed, other than DJ Reed, are mostly just backups. Mostly. Like Roy Lopez might be a starter because of Aleem McNeil being out. We'll see what happens with that defensive tackle position. But you're bringing back like Aiden Hutchinson. You're bringing back Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez. Those were starters / role players. You know, every single person we've signed this season so far has been depth, adding depth. Our defense was pretty solid last year until it got just put through the grinder and just broken down. But to answer your question, do I want to see Brad Holmes draft 2 defensive ends? That is 100% my strategy. Even if it's a defensive end and a D tackle in the first 2 rounds, I'm happy with that. I don't think defensive tackle is a massive need, but there's a lot of defensive ends. There's a lot of pass rushers and edge rushers out there in this draft. So if you're going to have an opportunity to draft 2 of them, you have a chance in this draft to get 2 really phenomenal rookies. There's a lot of freak athletes out there in this draft, Will. So I really hope that's what he ends up doing.
Steve, well, then my immediate question is this. He can't do that because we got to draft best player available.
I hate that term.
It's BPA. It's BPA only. Brad Holmes, that's what Brad Holmes does.
What if best player available on Mel Kiper's board is a wide receiver? It doesn't make a lot of sense for the Lions to draft a wide receiver in round 2, in my opinion. Now, with that being said, that's probably exactly what Brad Holmes is going to do and make me look like an idiot. But best player available is depending on the team. All right. Not every team like the best player available might be Cam Ward. All right. Do you think that if the Kansas City Chiefs had the first overall pick, they were going to draft Cam Ward? Probably not. They're pretty set at that position. So it's all dependent. I hate that term best player available, Will. It's the worst thing in drafts.
What I think, actually, I was going to say something.
Say something crazy.
I was just gonna. So take this with a grain of salt. I don't want to be going too far, but it's just an analogy. But I feel like when you look at the Bible, right? People can interpret that.
Oh boy! But
listen, people interpret certain scriptures of the Bible in abundance of different ways, right? So when I look at things that Brad Holmes say, they interpret it abundance of different ways instead of just taking it directly for what he says, right? So he has said that the Detroit Lions aren't a team that locks onto a position and just drafts at a position. That's not what we do. But if you listen to him season after season after season, he talks about it's contingent of a lot of things. And most recently, he's been talking about, he keeps stuff close to the vest, but I feel like this is the loosest that he's been with speaking. He talked about now it has to do with the state of our roster. So it's a combination of the state of our roster and where we're at and best player available. So he has a board to where he has grades on guys. He said it. If you go back and listen to him talk in his interviews, he said, I got 1st round grades on guys. I got 2nd round grades on guys. I got 3rd round grades on guys. And I got guys that are developmental, right? These are guys that are Broderick Martins, James Houston's, the guys that you're taking a chance on, right? So if he has 1st round grades on his board at a running back, right? If he if he's got, Amari Hampton or Henderson from that team down south, if he's got a first round grade on those guys and they're still on the board, that doesn't mean that's what Brad's going to do. Right? That's all I'm saying. Like, guys, it's not just sometimes people get in the comments or we have conversations with people and they're like, no, Brad drafts best player available, especially in the first round. It don't matter if it's a receiver. That's not true. That's not true. So do I think that if Mason Graham is on the board somehow and he trades up, is he going to take a edge? No, it's got to make sense. It's got to be relative to it just being realistic. But we're not just going to go out and draft a guy just because Brad has him ranked higher on his first round draft picks than everybody else. If he has a first round running back, but he also has a first round edge, I guarantee you he's drafting that first round edge that he has a first round grade on. That's all I'm saying when we're talking about best player available. So I just wanted to clear that up. So when I look at that, to me, and I'm not Brad Holmes, I'm definitely not the smartest guy in most rooms. I'm not going to say that I am, but I do have a certain level of football competency. When I look at this draft, there is a substantial amount of edges that can play some doggone good football. So when I look at it, to me, I've said it before. Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham. They're in the conversation at DT. And even really Talik Williams, but he's like he's a little bit lower than those three. But those three DTs that I named, if they're on the board, I got to do some hard thinking. But outside of that, I don't know too many other positions that I'm going to want ahead of Nick Scorton. Guys, hammer me for this one because I know there's no production there, but Shamar Stewart, Landon Jackson, I know Donovan Izoroku. This is going to be a hard time getting me off of these guys at pick 28. So one of those guys are going to be there, and I'm not drafting any receiver or running back or, the only offensive lineman that I'm going to take is Tyler Booker. Right, that's in that conversation. So, Steve, I think that when we look at this draft and moving forward, for me, I'm going to be looking at grading the defensive ends or the edge players that I think can be there at pick 28. I didn't mention James Pierce. He's another one. He's sliding down the board. He could be there. Who are the guys that can be there at the edge at pick 28? Who are the defensive tackles that can be there at pick 28? Will Jahad Campbell potentially be there at pick 28? And then I'm going to start putting those guys, because I haven't yet, putting those guys in numerical order of where I think they fall for Brad Holmes and for us here at Detroit Den 313. Because I think if we do that, there's going to be the breadcrumbs of what's going to happen in this draft. And then second round, you could be looking at a nickel type of a safety nickel type of guy. There's like 5 of those in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if we get one of those, a guy that we can bump back to replace Brian Branch or Kirby Joseph if needed, or they can come down and play the nickel position if needed. Because when you look at this, Steve, Avante Maddox can play the nickel. Obviously, Brian Branch can play the nickel. Amik Robertson can play the nickel. Hey, Ennis Rakestraw played some nickel. I think Terrion Arnold can play the nickel. He's even like he's said it, guys. I know somebody commented it last time, smacking me on my PP that TA is an outside guy. I understand he's an outside guy, but words straight out of his mouth, he said I can play any position in the secondary, and he said he likes playing inside because he likes to be close to the action. He likes to tackle and be physical. So that's all I'm saying. Brad Holmes has said it. He drafts guys who can bounce all around the secondary. They're football players. So when you look at this, Steve, I'm looking at maybe a DT if it's just a crazy talent that we can't pass on. But otherwise, it's going to be edge. It's going to be safety, and it'll be a linebacker late. Where are you at? What do you think that we're drafting? I forgot interior lineman as well. But what are you thinking?
I'm thinking defensive end first, and then maybe, I think you're right, maybe a young player in the secondary, because I don't think we have many guys on our roster that are under contract for like a more than 3 years. Like I'm pretty sure like the DJ Reed was at 3 years. Terrion Arnold, I think Robertson's contract's up after this year. I think his was only a 2-year deal. I could be wrong on that, but I'd like to get another young guy just to keep in the mix, just to keep things fresh. But it's not a huge need. If that slides to round 3, I'm good with that. But I think my number one thing will been since day one. Pass rushers, whoever puts pressure on a quarterback. I don't care where that comes from. If it's defensive tackle, if Mason Graham falls, or if it's a Kenneth Grant, a Walter Nolan, a Derek Harmon, I'm more than okay with it. Here's the thing. Another thing about best player available. I don't know where a lot of people get their best player available, because in my opinion, most people are looking at when you're watching the draft and it's got Mel Kiper's best available. I think that's what they're going off of. And again, like you said, like I said, it's team dependent. Like teams don't all, not every team in the draft needs a quarterback. I think we're pretty set there. So if Shador Sanders somehow falls to pick 28 and has like a crazy slide like Aaron Rodgers did when he came out of the draft, I still don't think he's going to be the pick for the Lions. Maybe in that scenario he might be, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's just that it's all best player available is just based on opinion. So Brad's opinion on best player available is really the only one that matters. So I hate seeing that term best player available. But what do I want? If I had the 3 picks in the draft, I would go defensive end, corner/safety. That would be my first 3 picks in that order. I'm not going to throw out a player. I'm not going to do a mock draft about it, but that's what my positions would be. D end, I can get a starting defensive end because let's be honest, how long is Marcus Davenport going to play? It's just going to be a matter of time until he gets hurt. It's not if, it's when. So I draft a starter right there at my defensive end, and then I draft another one in round 2, and that's my second wave guy. Or he can step up if something happens to Hutch and he gets a boo-boo and has to miss a game, or for whoever that rookie is on the other side, he can step in for him. And then in the 3rd round, I draft that corner/nickel, like you're saying, and can play a little safety and has a little versatility. And then round 4, maybe wide receiver, offensive line. I think that a wide receiver might be in play just because, you know, Amon St. Brown's getting a little older. He's still a junkyard dog. I'm not saying he's knocking on the retirement door or anything like that, but J-Mo, we don't know what his future holds. You know, are we going to pick up that 5th-year contract? Are we going to sign him to a $20 million extension? Tim Patrick's on a 1-year deal, so maybe a wide receiver might be in play. I don't know. Well, there's a lot of different possibilities, tons of possibilities.
Yeah, there is, man. And I feel like whatever we name, Brad's going to go do something different. But if you're asking me, bottom line, I think you see 2 edge rushers come to the Detroit Lions out of this draft. You see a linebacker come at some point. You see a safety. That's what I see, man. And then I would be over the moon if somehow. I know I keep saying it, but if somehow Tyler Booker ended up a Detroit Lion, I would just go ahead and go directly to Canton and just ask where they're going to be putting Mr. Gibbs's statue at, because he will be on his way to Canton. If you're telling me that we're looking at a line with Taylor Decker, Tyler Booker, Frank Ragnow, right, then we're going to have the dirtbag out there, Christian Mahogany, at the other guard, and then the best offensive lineman in football in Penei Sewell. Steve, the things that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to do.
2,000 rushing yards.
Golly, like I just don't even know how you deal with them. I don't know how you deal with them. So I don't know. There's a couple other linemen that are out there. I think we will draft a lineman somewhere in the draft, but I would be 100% okay if Tyler Booker slid to 28, taking Tyler Booker and then just drafting 2 edge rushers after that. Like, it's just so many different ways that it can go. But I think that would be a surprising way for most Detroit Lions fans. I think if Tyler Booker was on the board and Brad Holmes selected him, I think Detroit Lions fans would be like, whoa, what are we doing? And, you know, we gave up. We didn't get the edge, you know, whatever. So buckle your seatbelt, guys, and be ready for that one.
Yeah, I don't think we planned on this even really turning into a draft day show, but just with all the moves of the Avante Maddox, you know, everything that's accumulated over the last couple of days is just kind of getting us into that mindset that Brad's just leaving some hints. All right, he's leaving some clues, and those clues are going to keep coming because there's some big time schools with their pro days coming up. Michigan's was today. I haven't seen anything about Kenneth Grant in his 40 time yet. Have you seen anything about that? I thought their pro day was today, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't. I spent most of the day sitting in a chair being abused, but
we'll take care of that. Or did he touch you? Like, if we had a doll and we had to show like where did the doctor touch you, would it be in a not safe place? Okay, yeah. But Brad's going to start leaving some clues because these pro days are coming. You're going to start seeing which scouts are at which school versus which scouts aren't at certain schools, because there's some guys that Brad trusts more than ever. Like there's a chain of command in the scouting system. So he's going to send his top guys to these schools that he really wants to get a look at. And if he wants to get a look himself, like he did last year, going to Alabama's pro day instead of Michigan's that was right down the street with like 20 prospects in the NFL draft, that was a clue. Stuff like that's going to keep happening. I think Michigan's pro day was today. Could be wrong on that one. And I'm pretty sure Ohio State and Texas are sometime next week. So they usually have some big time prospects. You got some information over there?
No, I'm gonna keep it close to the vest. We'll talk after.
Unbelievable. Will's just keeping secrets from our fans. It's unbelievable. People, just go ahead and hit that unsubscribe button. If Will's
I gotta give you legit information. I can't give you something until I make sure that it's legit.
All right, you got anything else for tonight?
That's it. I do. Last thing that I'll say is this. Monday or Tuesday, whatever day that Steve ends up being cool with, mock draft. Steve's gonna be quarterback, and then I'm gonna be picking some people. Mock draft Monday or Tuesday, whatever the captain says he's good with. And longest we don't have a little perky on the way.
Yeah, and by the way, I did get a firm answer on that podcasting and recording an episode during birth, and it was as expected. It was you had better not or else. So the missus did put her foot down. I'll be good thing with those iPads is though that they're mobile. I could take those anywhere. So yeah, maybe I just sneak away for a little bit and maybe just going to get a snack and it turns into be like a 25-minute I got lost, couldn't find my way, and then boom, there's an episode up. I don't know. Stick around, hit that like button. We'll be back later with another show.
Peace.